Check out the teeth on this guy. I don't really know what it is. Let me know in the comments below. It might be a raccoon or could be a bobcat, honestly. I really don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think this guy is. Big scrape right here, guys. That's one of the benefits of shed hunting, is you get to push in a little bit and not only look for sheds, but you can look for sign like this. Look for rubs, scrapes, bedding area. All good stuff to have for next season. And when you're figuring out your new sets, shed hunting is a great time to get in and push a little bit, and then you get to see some sign and see what you might have been missing during the season. Dad's got a deadhead over here. First antlers of the day, but it's definitely not how you want to find them. Let's go see how big it is, see what he's got. Oh wow, it's not a bad deer. It's not a bad one. Dude, this is high rise. Remember he had that little point? That little knife point? I think it might be him.
It was literally right there. How could we not see that?
I don't know.
That's been there a couple of years.
Oh yeah, you're true. That can't be him. Dude, that's my, I think it might be.
I think it is too.
I mean, it sucks that we had to find him that way, but at least we found him.
He probably died because of me.
No, because we had pictures
of
him.
I know, but he was still hurt.
But he was old. He was at least 8. He probably would have died. He might have died anyway. I mean, we had pictures of him after you shot him for sure. But I think I'll have to go back and look at the last pictures we had of him. But I think he did have that 9th point the last year. I think that's him. He's not even too bad to chewed up. I mean, we can color him up and he'll look nice. Dang. That's the way his beams are sweeping, I think it's definitely him. Look at that little kicker thing that's coming off.
So, we're walking down this hill, remember? That's the last time we jumped in.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, God dang it, pretty boy, what happened to you? And I walk up the hill.
I know, this is like the last hill that we like found anything on him when we were tracking him that day after you shot him.
Yep.
But then we had pictures of him a couple weeks later.
But this was definitely his area.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But there's no other bones, so he might have
But I feel like that was what, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, wasn't it?
It was
3 years ago. Because it was my senior year because I was working at Hickory Sticks.
Yep.
That was 3 years ago. We've combed this area countless times and never found him.
So I wonder, I don't know, the carcass got carried away by...
Yeah.
Not the way you want to find them, but... Hey,
no, but I mean, it's...
We finally got our pretty boy.
I mean, we can color it up. He'll look nice,
not
dude.
One chaw mark on
just that one tine at the top, but I mean, we can still... I've seen people use like Bondo and stuff to like fill them out and then sand it, and then we could color it up.
Well,
I'm kind of happy that at least, I
Me
mean,
too.
because I mean, he disappeared, so like there was no way we knew he was dead, but
Yep.
at least now we found him. All right,
How
so
about the luck of that?
Six-
Seriously, just
yeah.
walking randomly and
successful day at least so far. Now let's see if we
shit.
can't find a few more sheds. All right, guys, here he is. You saw the video to this point, and this is Pretty Boy. This is the buck that me and Dad found out shed hunting this past weekend. And even though he is dead and this is the end of the story, it's also where the story pretty much begins, because now I get to tell you guys and go back and look at all the pictures and just share the actual story of the deer that we called Pretty Boy. So let's just get right into it. The first year that we got pictures of this buck was actually all the way back in 2012. He showed up full velvet, late August, early September. It was a beautiful deer, mainframe 8-pointer. At that time, we estimated him to be a 3.5-year-old deer. So not really what we were looking for in terms of age, but I mean, his rack was just beautiful. One of the biggest deer we'd seen on the farm in a long time. And 2012 came, we had high hopes to see him. We were hunting hard, had a lot of sets in the area that we were getting pictures of him. We were getting a lot of pictures of him, hundreds of pictures of him. Daylight, nighttime, you name it. But just for whatever reason, he was one of them deer that we could never see him. Never saw him at all in 2012. Season came around, came and went, no sightings of him. Shed hunt, didn't find any of his sheds in 2012, so we just kind of forgot about him until the 2013 season rolled back around. And here he was again. Still a mainframe 8-pointer. He was starting to develop some kickers off of his main beams and his G2s and whatnot. Beautiful deer, 4.5 at this point, and this is when we really started getting excited about him, was 2013, because he was 4.5, like I said, and this was the time that we really wanted to get after him and get a tag on this big guy. Lots of sits in 2014. Again, no sightings. Lots of pictures, though. We were still getting hundreds of pictures of him, but he was just becoming one of those deer that was going to be incredibly hard to hunt and to actually get eyes on him while you're in the stand. So 2014 comes and goes, no sightings, lots of pictures, still no sheds. Couldn't find any of his sheds in 2014 either, or 2013, excuse me. And then 2014 comes around, back on the cameras, full velvet, August, September, October, November pictures, and all throughout the season he wasn't leaving. He was summering, wintering, rutting. He was doing everything on our farm. And 2014, we still could not get any sightings of this deer. We were getting hundreds of pictures, but we just could not see him. We were in the stand so many times throughout the years that he was on the farm and just never could see him. 2014 comes and goes. He was starting to develop this little 9th point in 2014, but at that point he was 5.5, and he just really wasn't getting much bigger, so we really wanted to get after him in 2015. And here comes 2015, getting beautiful pictures of him again in August, September, October, daylight pictures, lots of daylight pictures. He was 6.5-year-old deer, but we were getting kind of worried about his health, because as you'll see in the pictures, he was developing some type of abscess, or I don't know actually what it was, on the underside of his jaw. So we were kind of worried about his health going into the 2015 season as a 6.5-year-old deer on our farm. And that's when we started hunting for him really hard. And it just so happened that Dad was the first one to ever lay eyes on this bad boy. He was hunting in mid-September, can't remember the exact date. I was at work, and I get a text from Dad saying that he thinks he just put an arrow in Pretty Boy, but he's not too sure about his shot. So I told him, sit tight, I'll be up after work. So work comes and goes. I go up to help Dad track this deer. We recover the arrow. Not a lot of penetration, not too promising, but when we got to the spot of the actual hit, there was good blood. It was good red blood, pretty good amount of it too. So we were pretty encouraged at that point. We started tracking the deer. We tracked him for a couple hundred yards actually, and that's when the blood just started running sparse, drops here and there, but really nothing to go off of. So it was getting pretty late at night at that point, so we decided to just pack it in, not push him anymore. We'll come back in the morning and hopefully recover this deer. So the night goes and we get some sleep, come back, rejuvenated in the morning, really excited, really wanted to find this deer, and nothing. No more blood,
so we just started grid searching, hoping that we might stumble upon him, and we never did. So got to the middle of the day, we were pretty disheartened, so we just decided to go back to the quad and maybe come back again tomorrow. We got back to the quad, and on the way back to the quad, we actually stumbled upon some new blood that we hadn't seen before on the previous grids that we had searched trailing this buck. So we got some renewed life. It wasn't much blood, it was just a little bit, but it was in a different area, so we decided to start gridding that. And as we were gridding that, we actually bounced the deer. We heard him run off, we saw where he had originally been standing, so we decided to go to that point where he was standing, and right where he was standing, before we had bounced him off, there was actually a little piece of meat, red meat, sitting there with just a few specks of blood. And that, along with how long we had been tracking him, it had been almost 24 hours at this point, we decided that it was probably a non-lethal hit and that he was going to live. So we just decided to back out and just hopefully come back and check the cameras in a few weeks, and hopefully he'd be back on them. A few weeks came and went, and he was nowhere to be found. So we were pretty nervous that he might have just gone off and died somewhere and we weren't able to find him. And then I believe it was October 31st came around, Halloween, and he was back on the cameras. You could actually see some of the impact from where Dad had hit him, and it looks like it should have been a good shot, but it was just one of those things with bow hunting, you know, something weird happened. I don't know if the arrow was deflected or what. I wasn't there. Dad had so much adrenaline going that he can't really quite remember exactly what happened, but he was on the cameras, and that was all that mattered, because it wasn't a lethal shot. So he was on the cameras sporadically there in October and a little bit into early November in 2015, and then nothing. No pictures, no sightings during the rut, during gun season. Shed hunt of 2015 rolls around, no sheds, nothing. So we were getting pretty discouraged, and all we could do was hope that he'd be back on the cameras in 2016. 2016 came around, and he wasn't there. So it was just kind of one of those things that we just forgot about him. We had new bucks on the cameras, and we just thought that Pretty Boy was one of them deer that we were just never going to have any closure with. 2016 rolls around, take a few good bucks. 2017, still some good bucks, just no Pretty Boy. And then here it happens, shed hunting in 2018, almost 3 years later, and we find him in an area that we had searched all 3 of the previous years. It wasn't an area uncommon to us. It was an area that we were heavily searching, and I don't know for whatever reason if he was covered up the other years or what, but Dad was able to find him this year, as you saw in the video, and he's just a beautiful buck. It's not how you want to find him, but for a deer like this that we had so many pictures of, it's nice to get closure on him. He's a mainframe 8 with a little 9th point right there. Haven't ran a tape over him yet. I'm not sure what he would score. Maybe he might be a Popin young deer, but he was just a brute. He had a huge body, 6.5-year-old deer. It's tough for bucks on our farm to make it to 6.5 years old, so he was really an abnormality. But yeah, that's the story of Pretty Boy, guys. So almost 3 years later, after we assumed he was dead in 2015, which he actually did die in 2015, but we just assumed we were never going to find him, and here he is in all his glory. And his antlers are still intact. They're really nice still. There's only a little bit of chipping, and I'm actually going to be restoring these antlers, so stay tuned for that video. Hopefully in the next month or so we'll have the video out of restoring these antlers and making them look like he did in all his glory. Yeah, so that's Pretty Boy, guys. If you liked it, leave me a comment down below, like the video. Don't forget to subscribe, because it is springtime, as you guys know. That means we're going to have turkey season coming up, lots of fishing videos. I'm planning on bringing out a lot of content here in the spring and the coming year. And make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're watching the channel, make sure you're here for it. Thanks, I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.